Imagine your organization is a medieval castle. I know it's a classic analogy, but bear with me. For decades, the gold standard for cybersecurity was basically just building these massive, tall walls, digging a deep moat, and pulling up a heavy drawbridge. The undeniable assumption we all operated under was simple. Anyone inside the castle is trusted. That was the old model, and you know what? It worked beautifully, right up until it absolutely didn't. And to understand just how spectacularly that castle model failed, we just have to look at the numbers. In 2020, over 18,000 organizations were compromised in the infamous SolarWinds attack. 18,000! But here is the truly terrifying part. The attackers didn't kick down the front door. They didn't scale those massive walls we just talked about. They bypassed the perimeter entirely by walking right in through a trusted software update. Once they were inside, the network implicitly trusted them. Game over.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are completely tearing down that outdated castle mindset. We're going to construct a resilient, modern digital architecture right from the ground up. We'll be using a technical roadmap that keeps your back-end security absolutely impenetrable, without slowing down the legitimate users who actually need to get in and do their jobs.
Okay, let's dive into this and look at the literal schematic we'll be following today. 1. The castle has fallen. 2. The security foundation. 3. The modern front door. 4. Inside zero trust architecture. 5. The change management link. And finally 6. Surviving disaster cyber resilience.
Section 1. The castle has fallen. The end of perimeter-only defense.
Step 1 in our blueprint requires a total mental shift. We absolutely have to bury the concept of implicit trust. See, in traditional networks, if you used a virtual private network or VPN, the system assumed you were safe just because you had an internal IP address. You were basically handed a key to an entire segment of resources. But today, location means absolutely nothing. Whether a request is coming from a desk at corporate HQ or a coffee shop halfway across the globe, the risk is exactly the same. Under the old rules, once an attacker bypassed that perimeter, they had free rein to just move laterally, hopping from system to system completely undetected.
Section 2. The security foundation. The bedrock of cyber defense.
So before we put up any modern walls or doors in our new architecture, we really need to establish the core rules of engagement. This is the absolute bedrock that every single piece of technology in our system has to support. First up is the CIA triad. Confidentiality means data is only accessible to authorized eyes, which we enforce through encryption. Integrity means your data is accurate and hasn't been secretly tampered with while in transit. We verify that through hashing. Availability means your systems are actually up and running when you need them, using redundant servers and failovers. And right alongside that triad is non-repudiation. Think of this as the ultimate proof of action. It's like a digital signature on a contract. Once a user performs an action, the audit logs and certificates ensure they literally cannot deny it. Now, the key is understanding how we actually enforce those tenets. And that brings us to the absolutely crucial difference between authentication and authorization. Because proving your identity is really only half the battle. Authentication simply answers the question, who are you? Using something you know, something you have, or something you are, like biometrics. But authorization? That answers, what can you do? Once the system knows who you are, it checks your permissions. The golden rule here is least privilege, giving users exactly what they need to do their job and absolutely nothing more.
Section 3. The modern front door. Customer identity and access management.
Now that our foundation is rock solid, we can transition to the entry point of our structure. We need to build a customer identity and access management system, or CIAM. And we have to strike a really delicate balance here. If you make a login process too complex, users are going to give up. Make it too simple and you're risking a massive data breach. So let's walk through the milliseconds of a modern login. First, we eliminate friction right off the bat using social logins or passwordless entry, like magic links. We gather data over time through progressive profiling instead of demanding some massive annoying form on day one. Next, adaptive multi-factor authentication sits quietly in the background. It only triggers a secondary challenge if the login behavior looks highly suspicious. All of this data hits the universal directory, which is a highly available central node acting as our single source of truth. Finally, API gateways serve as the bridge to the application itself, making sure these heavy security computations don't slow down the user's experience one bit.
Section 4. Inside. Zero Trust Architecture. Continuous verification.
All right, our user's finally through the front door. But remember our new architectural rule. Just because someone made it inside does not mean they are trusted. Welcome to Zero Trust. And listen, this isn't some product you can just buy off a shelf. It's a radical mindset shift.
The mantra is never trust, always verify. It demands that you design your security assuming the attackers are already inside your network. Every single access request gets evaluated, every single time. It doesn't matter if you authenticated perfectly at 9 a.m., if your behavior starts looking strange at 2 p.m., your trust is instantly revoked.
Now, what's really interesting here is how Zero Trust organizes all this continuous verification into two distinct planes. Think of the control plane as the brain or the engine of the operation. It continuously evaluates who you are, your location, and your device health to make a dynamic, policy-driven decision. The data plane, on the other hand, is the muscle. It's the strict gatekeeper that receives the decision from the control plane and physically carries it out, either granting or denying access to the specific data or application. And these two, they work together for every single request.
Let's trace how this brain and muscle actually work together in the blink of an eye. When an employee tries to access an HR system, the identity provider verifies who they are. Immediately, a device health check runs. Is this laptop managed? Is the operating system patched up? Then the central policy engine makes a split-second decision based on all those signals. If access is granted, it is micro-segmented. This is absolutely brilliant because it limits the blast radius. We're giving the user a key to room 204, not a master key to the entire hotel. So if their account is compromised, the attacker is trapped in that single room, effectively stopping lateral movement dead in its tracks.
Section 5. The change management link. Maintaining the structure.
So we've built this seemingly unbreachable fortress. But even the absolute strongest architecture can crumble if someone makes a sloppy upgrade to the plumbing. We really need to look at operations here. It's a hard truth, but undisciplined changes are a leading cause of security incidents. If an engineer accidentally modifies an allow list or breaks an upstream dependency in a legacy app, the walls come down. Good change management is actually a critical security control in itself. It protects us from our own mistakes. Every modification requires an impact analysis, formal approval, scheduled maintenance windows, and version control, so we have a clear backout plan to roll back the system if things break.
And speaking of operational controls, I want to inject a bit of James Bond-esque flavor into our defenses with deception technology. Because we assume the breach has already happened, we actively plant fake assets, honeypots, honey files, or even fake cloud access keys directly into our environment. The sheer beauty of this control is that legitimate employees have absolutely no reason to ever touch these traps. Therefore, any interaction with them is an instant, blazing red alarm that an intruder is poking around where they shouldn't be.
Section 6. Surviving disaster, cyber resilience, designing for failure.
We have reached the final phase of our blueprint, and we have to ask the ultimate question: what happens if our zero trust controls fail, or a catastrophic natural disaster takes our primary data centers offline entirely? This is where cyber resilience comes in, specifically guided by the NIST 800-160 framework. You see, security is no longer just about prevention. It's about how incredibly fast your business functions can get back on their feet. Can your system actually support the mission under extreme stress? These 4 pillars are our blueprint for survival. We must anticipate threats, withstand attacks through segmentation, recover trusted operations quickly, and adapt our architecture automatically to evolving adversaries.
And to see what that resilience looks like in action within a modern cloud environment like AWS, it's pretty incredible. It basically acts like a digital earthquake-proofing system. Imagine an entire primary region just goes completely dark. Immediately, routing services like Route 53 detect the outage and instantly redirect DNS traffic to a secondary disaster recovery region. Meanwhile, an air-gaps backup vault ensures that our underlying data hasn't been maliciously wiped or encrypted by ransomware. In mere milliseconds, the secondary region spins up replicated databases and auto-scales virtual machines to handle a sudden load. The system literally heals itself, shifting operations across the globe seamlessly.
We have covered some incredible ground today, from ripping up the old perimeter mindset all the way to implementing customer identity, zero trust, and automated cyber resilience. The castle and moat, they're dead. Location means nothing. Continuous verification is literally everything. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought as you evaluate your own internal architecture. If your digital walls fell today, what exactly is standing behind them? Are your attackers trapped in a single room, or do they have the master key to the whole kingdom? Keep verifying, keep building resilience, and I will see you in the next explainer.